Hello and welcome to Middle East Matters here on France 24. In today's programme, Houthis hold on to their positions in Yemen despite weeks of air raids by the Saudi-led coalition, the latest to strikes hitting the residence of former President Ali Abdullah Saleh. We look at the role he's still playing in the conflict. Home, but not yet feeling fully safe, Iraqis return to towns freed from the grasp of the Islamic State group. The trauma of the takeover is still very present in their minds. And calling for Israel to be taken off the international football playing field, Palestinian authorities raised the red card, saying their players can't participate properly due to travel restrictions. In Yemen, the fight between the Saudi-led coalition and Houthi rebels has seen little change in the position of either side. 6 weeks of airstrikes have done little to remove the rebels, a group already battle-hardy from decades of fighting. Aurora Dupuy looks at the possible backing of the Houthis and how they're holding on.
A plume of smoke rising over Sana'a. Saudi warplanes bombard Yemen's capital. Their target, Houthi rebel positions. That day, the house of the former president was flattened. Ali Abdullah Saleh wasn't there during the attack. He returned home the following day. Interviewed on his own TV channel, Saleh urged his supporters to fight against the foreign intervention.
This is a genocide, a war of revenge and hatred against the Yemeni people. I could not have sided with the Houthis. But today, I tell you this, the Yemeni people will join forces with those who are defending the nation.
Back in 2011, during the Arab Spring, Saleh was forced to step down after 33 years in power. His deputy, Abd Rabbo Mansour Hadi, succeeded him. But Saleh's regime remained pretty much intact. He continued to rule his party, the General People's Congress, and more importantly, he kept close ties with the military.
I think that Saleh remained the commander-in-chief. Some members of the military are perhaps not under his influence, but the nation's military power certainly is on his side.
Earlier this year, as protests ravaged Yemen, Houthi rebels from the north seized the opportunity and took control of the capital, Sana'a. The army didn't budge. The Shiite rebels then advanced towards the south and reached the port city of Aden, while Al-Qaeda continued to creep east of the country. President Hadi and his government were forced to flee. Exiled in Saudi Arabia, they accuse forces loyal to Saleh of supporting the rebels.
Houthi rebels and Saleh are committing atrocities in Taiz, Lahij, Dali and Marib. They're attacking innocent and armed civilians across the entire country.
The exiled government counts on its Sunni allies to deal with the Shiite rebels. The Saudi-led coalition has been bombing Houthi positions for more than a month, and Saleh seems to be waiting for the right moment to bounce back.
He totally supports the Houthis, but at the same time he makes sure he's still independent, so that he's seen as a solution to the problem. I think he wants to make himself indispensable for the return to peace.
With his strong military ties, his political influence and his personal fortune gained while he was in power, Saleh could potentially make a political comeback in Yemen.
The battle to beat militants from the Islamic State group continues. The US-led coalition carried out dozens of strikes over the weekend and claimed to have destroyed some of the jihadists' positions and supply warehouses. But the group retains control of vast swaths of land, and in towns in Iraq freed from Islamic State, locals are only starting to trickle back in, still very wary of their environment. France 24's team went to one such town, Al Alam, just north of Tikrit, and Sophie Lemuf and Sanam Shanti.
Returning to their homes in areas liberated by government and allied forces, the residents of Al Alam. The once displaced locals are closely monitored by volunteers that belong to a secretive branch of the Iraqi government. Their mission, to track down the enemy, the Islamic State insurgents.
Any civilian that comes here is taken, as is their identity card. Their identity is verified by the computer. I also have the names of wanted people. If found, we arrest them and send them to the units.
And how many do you have to find?
I have more than 6,000 names in the Salahuddin province alone.
Amongst the displaced, Adnan al-Jaburi, who was a policeman prior to the arrival of the Islamic State fighters. And to escape death, he and his family fled to the Humran Mountains.
When I came back home, I found the TV, the satellite and the fridge. That was it. It's good that they didn't take all that with them, but I don't know why.
And they may be gone, but their traces linger.
There was garbage and blood and burned beds. I've been cleaning the house for 4 days.
She may have escaped death, but at a price.
They requested that all women wear a niqab. We thought, great, this is Islam. But then they started to decapitate people. They took the boys from their mothers and left the mothers to cry. This is tragic.
And it was tragedies like this that led Mahmoud to the arms of the government forces.
They kill people like dogs. Even dogs are more loyal than Islamic State.
Like thousands before him, Mahmoud has vowed the jihadists will never take back his land, but there's no guarantee. For now, there's only 5 kilometers of land separating them from the insurgents.
Hospitals in Syria are going underground, literally. Doctors around Aleppo are now trying to build medical facilities beneath the earth in a bid to find somewhere safe from the constant violence. Amnesty International has released another report accusing the Syrian regime of crimes against humanity and of using barrel bombs against civilians there. Half of the country's hospitals have been destroyed since the start of the war over 4 years ago. Aurora Dupree reports.
He lost his leg and his arm in a car bomb attack. This young man wants to remain anonymous, fearing for his life. Like him, around 1,200 patients pour into this hospital in Damascus every day.
There are too many patients. Every day they travel from faraway provinces with severe burns. In these areas, most hospitals have been destroyed and are no longer operational.
Since the start of the war 4 years ago, medical facilities keep being targeted, equipment and supplies are damaged, and there aren't enough medical staff.
It's hard to see people wounded in the war. We have to treat them and take care of them. Our emergency services are constantly on alert.
The situation's even worse in Aleppo province, northern Syria. The regime constantly bombards this rebel stronghold. The UN accuses Syrian troops of targeting doctors specifically.
We're trying to find a way of building hospitals underground. That's what we're thinking of doing, to ensure that medical staff are safe. That gives you an idea of just how bad things are.
Medical care experts say at least half of the country's hospitals and 90% of Syria's ambulances have been destroyed or damaged in the war.
Calling for Israel to be suspended from international football, the Palestine Football Association says it will go ahead with its proposal to vote on the issue at FIFA's Congress at the end of May. The Palestinian Federation says its team is hindered through travel restrictions and discrimination. Gallagher Fenwick travelled throughout the West Bank meeting Arab and Jewish settler players to see what they think.
With settlements in the backdrop, Palestine resumes training in preparation for World Cup qualifiers. Players and staff complain about Israel continuously violating their right to play freely on their own land.
Getting around, traveling, is very complicated for us. This puts unnecessary pressure on the entire squad. Every time we need to go somewhere in Palestine or abroad, we have to overcome lots of obstacles that are imposed on us.
Israelis control every access to the West Bank. The trainer, who hails from Algeria, says he often faces harassment when coming here.
Once they detained me for 8 hours. I had to go through a stupid police interrogation.
The head of the Palestinian Football Federation wants the occupying force to be held accountable for its actions. He is calling on FIFA member states to vote yes on a resolution to suspend Israel. Sepp Blatter, who runs the body that governs world football, is opposed to the idea, but that hasn't swayed Jibril Rajoub.
The Israelis are treating us through their hatred, their enmity, their racist feeling, and it's the time to raise the red card by the international community.
Palestinian officials also argue that 5 Israeli teams are currently violating the statutes of FIFA. This is one of the squads which they have singled out in their resolution. These players compete in Israel's league despite the fact that they train and at times play games in a settlement in the West Bank.
We don't get into politics. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion and voice it. We respect everyone. There's no problem at all from our point of view.
This is my home. I was born here. This place is an integral part of Israel, and that's it.
We used to play football in prison.
Palestinians have garnered support for their cause, notably from South African former anti-apartheid activist and president of an NGO for the eradication of racism in sports, Tokyo Sexwell.
We are here also as members of FIFA. Although today we've come to look at the situation of racism and discrimination, which is caused by the Israelis.
A 3/4 majority of FIFA's 209 members is required for the Palestinian proposal to succeed.
Finally, a drive-through museum with a difference. Tehran has turned its busy streets into an open-air art exhibition. 1,600 billboards saw their advertisements replaced by prints of works of artists from all corners of the globe. Many of the millions of the city's commuters who are used to spending hours in traffic welcome the move, as did Iranian artists. The project, entitled A Gallery as Big as a Town, hopes to get people visiting more galleries. We're going to leave you with those images for this week. Do take care.